Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here again. Sharon Sananakumara here as your host one more time, and I have the beautiful Jade Raider with us today. Thank you for being here, Jade.
Thank you for having me, Sharon. I'm excited to be here.
So am I. I just can't wait to dive in and talk about you and your work and whatever got you to where you are and just, that type of thing, okay? And just chat and get to know each
Yes.
other. So I'm going to read your bio first, okay?
Okay.
Okay, Jade Raider is a spiritual experience and multidimensional guide. She created her very own modality, KLEAR, that's capital KLEAR Channel Technique, registered technique, and is a passionate advanced master practitioner of the ancient Hawaiian practice.
La'au Kahea,
Thank you. Okay.
to make the call to your high self.
Oh, that's beautiful. Over the past 22 years, Jade has encountered multiple awakened experiences that led to her learning how to master her own natural empathic and spiritual capacities. Jade has engaged in more than 20 advanced trainings and certifications to support her in integrating her knowledge on the earth plane so that she can serve as an empath whisperer, master energy alchemist, and retreat leader. Jade is passionate about assisting others in connecting to their 70 self and clear, capital KLEAR, I like that, their way to their inner wisdom and self trust. Nice. And Jade's website is Jade, and last name spelled REHDER.com. And she's also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And I will share all those links down below. All
Thanks so
righty.
much, Sharon.
Oh, of course. So it's
Well,
just a
for a
question.
girl who grew up in a town of 300 people in northern Minnesota, like to be living on the Oregon coast and to have singing bowls sitting behind me is a
Uh-huh.
real different thing than being on farmland. So, yeah,
Oh,
it's been an adventure.
yeah, totally. And we were just, and Jade and I have not met before now. We've chatted on Messenger, I think it is. But we just realized as we were talking, that we both live in Oregon, and we didn't even know that. We're not that far from each other.
We aren't at all.
No. So it's, we just keep bringing our tribe in closer and closer. So I can't wait to
Absolutely.
hear about what you just shared for one thing. And I'd love to hear about your awakening experiences because a lot of us are going through that, right? And if you could share some of that, I feel that it will be helpful for people that are also going through those experiences too.
Mm,
You know?
absolutely. So, as a small child in northern Minnesota, I didn't know I was sensitive, other than I cried a lot and I knew a lot. I knew a lot. And I would open my mouth and tell people what I knew. Like one time I was at one of my cousin's weddings and I'm 8 years old. And I look up at my mom and I go, why is she marrying him? He's mean to her. He hits her. My mom puts her beautiful Germanic hand over my mouth and tells me, shh. 19 months later, that cousin was no longer married to that man who was not very, very mean to her. And over time, my natural awakened state that I came in, I actually turned down and shut down. Another time I knew a puppy was going to be hurt if it was given to my brother, and I didn't know how to voice it. So I said he's too little, and they hand him the puppy, he falls on the puppy, and the puppy leaves.
Mm.
And a lot of us have these things in our lives where we have these innate knowings. And personally, when I was 10, right before my moon cycle began, which actually amplifies our natural intuitive and psychic gifts, I turned off my clairvoyance because I saw so much. And I also turned down my telepathy because I would hear the thoughts between different people in a room. And I thought everyone did this. And so along the path, there have been a lot of things that have reawakened me, meaning awakening back into the gifts that were already there and then expanded my gifts. Um, I did turn back on my clairvoyance and my telepathy at 33 with conditions. Because we really here in our
Mhm.
human self, we have free will and choice.
Right.
And even knowing that you have a choice, that's something that a lot of us, it's a path for that awareness to come, that we actually can choose. I had a client yesterday who said, you told me I could say no to energy, and I did that and it stopped. And I'm like, yep. And she's like, but I didn't know I could say no. So I've had these big events happen in my life that have brought in more and more awarenesses. Uh, One of them was to be meeting a professional football player for the first time. He was referred to me in my practice in Colorado. I lived there almost 20 years, right below Boulder. And when I touched his hand, all of the pain he was feeling, I felt. So I am a physical pain empath. I'm an emotional empath. I'm a slight animal empath. That's not as high. Trees, oh, trees cry. And I live in Oregon where they cut a lot of trees down. There are times where I have to take lots of deep breaths driving down the road. Um, Weather is one of them. I can feel the earthquakes. I can feel those things. But when you're a physical empath and you touch someone who's had a lot of pain, this person had been a Denver Bronco. I literally hit the floor in this instant, Sharon, and I'm wreathing in pain, tears flying down my face. And I've been a clairaudient my whole life. I thought everyone was till I was 33. I thought everyone had a full-on team that spoke to them. I knew we were all different, but I thought clairaudience was on for everyone. I know everyone has a capacity, and a lot of people are waking into their clairaudience right now. So
Mhm.
I asked my team, what do I do? And all I heard is say, turn it down. Like imagine a knob
Mm.
and turn the pain from the other person down. And that was a life changer and a huge awakening moment for me, because I turned down the knobs for outer energies to a point where they're discernible and much less experienceable, because my personal field was wide open.
Yeah.
So that professional football player, by the time I got off the floor and wiped the mascara off my face, I said, how do you walk with that much pain in your body? And he said, oh, honey, I have a nerve blocks. I don't feel anything.
Wow.
And I mean, like Macaulay Culkin moment, I was like, what are you talking about? You don't feel that. And so a lot of us are waking into our body. And when we awaken into our body, because this ascension, Sharon, is an embodied ascension, and it's so different. So
Mhm.
many of us have been here, popped out, taken our consciousness to the next level, came back in, do it again. This time we're doing it with our bodies. And that has been, even in the last couple of years, another path of awakening. Like all the body stored trauma that I've had in my body, I've had to be consciously working with its expression, in a lot of different ways, with physical body practitioners, with other um, metaphysicians, and then as a self coach, like we all are, right? As we're on this journey, we're coaching ourselves. So, as we go through these experiences, they bring us awarenesses. And when we take that awareness and live it, it's wisdom. And when you asked about awakening experiences, I want to share a juicy, yummy one, because the painful ones are ones that are usually top of mind.
Yeah.
Um, 2011, I was on the Haumakua coast of the Big Island of Hawaii
Mhm.
and driving down it with a friend, and she's got the wheel, and I'm looking out at the ocean. And this rainbow that literally was so brilliant that it looked like a vector picture, like with drips of water in a deep, deep color. I'd never seen that brilliant of a rainbow. And my thought was, I wonder what it's like to be a rainbow. Well, guess what? We are creators and creatrixes, and out of the ocean comes the entire rainbow through the windshield of the car. And the driver, who is another spiritual aware being, pulls the car over into a spot that isn't even available to park in on a 2-lane curving mountain road. And I believe the Japanese tour bus that came by literally had to dematerialize to make it through the front of the car. But she became a rainbow too. Because the amount of energy when you make that kind of request brings you into such an altered state. So this is one of those yummy awakening experiences where I learned that I could literally walk in a human body vibrating as a rainbow.
That's amazing.
And for the next 48 hours, everything was decadent. You know how we talk about raising our vibration?
Mm-hmm.
Food, any food I touched was like the most amazing food. The clouds were more beautiful. The trees, I could see through the veil in different ways. Like we went to Akaka Falls, which is a really tall connected, Aka means connection, falls on the Big Island, and the goddess in the mist appeared in full aberration about 60 feet high. And I'm standing there going to people that I don't know, do you see this? Do you see this? Well, they can't see it because, again, it's a vibrational thing. And so we have these opportunities to make a request, especially from nature, and allow it to then be a physical experience. And, you know, as we all are continuing to awaken into more and more of our continuum of consciousness, really expanding our awarenesses, playing with nature is one of my absolute favorite things. Like it looks like I'm, you know, there's a creek and trees behind me. Mind you, there are trees right there and an ocean 4 minutes away, but I even have to have it inside the house with me so that I can feel it all the time. So hopefully those two are some idea. I've got a couple more that are not quite as fun. We may get to them along the way.
No, that's amazing. And isn't it true that when you raise your frequency, and I notice this all the time, and we go throughout our day with our frequency being at different levels, right?
Yeah.
You know, with whatever we're dealing with or however we feel, that, but when we're in a high frequency, everything is brighter. The food, like you said, the food tastes better. The you know, it's just it's like you can almost, the atmosphere is tangible. There's so much
Yeah.
light. Yeah.
There is. People were asking me what I was on, and I'm like, rainbow. And I think they thought it was a new recreational drug. And I'm like, no, rainbow, real rainbow. And they're like, lady. And I mean, I was like in people's faces going, you have to have the scallops with
That's
angel hair pasta and
amazing.
mac nuts.
That's amazing. Okay, everyone here, I'm going to try it too. I want you to try next time you see a rainbow. Say, I wonder what it's like to be a rainbow, and see what happens. I'm going to try it too.
Well, I believe
Or
the
do it.
reason it actually was so potent is because it was truly a childlike wonder.
It was,
There
yeah.
was no
Yeah.
adulting
Hmm.
into, I think I'll become a rainbow and I will be red and yellow. And, you know,
Yeah.
it was like really like I was in such awe. And, you know, when we do see rainbows, they're awe
They
striking.
are.
You know, that wonder really brought it in. And we
Sure.
can bring in wonder every day of our lives, right?
Yeah. I loved your story about when you were a little girl and how you were just telling the truth. You know, and I think a lot of people here could probably, of our viewers, could probably relate to the fact that we were, we were normal. That's normal. The way
Yes.
when we shut it off is not normal. You know, to have these gifts and not be able to tap into them is not normal. But to have our ability, it's not really gifts, it's our abilities, it's our God-given abilities. It's the natural way for us to be. I know, because I can definitely relate to that myself. And I tap, you know, repressed it as well. But that's just, how do I put it? We're getting there. We're getting there with people who are aware that are raising their children, uh, in that state, and not, well, we're already there. Let's just say that we're already there. So many people, I talk to so many people that have children that are so awake and so empathic, and are tapped into their abilities. It's here.
It
Yeah.
for me, I see that too. I had the pleasure today of talking with an 18-year-old in our clubhouse we do each Thursday, and she was like literally talking about how she sees things, and the children and the younger generation have come into a less dense humanity. And because of that, they haven't had to shut down. And then they have more aware parents that aren't shutting them down.
Right.
I got to a place where I really felt my parents truly were doing the best they could with what they knew. And I just spent 3 weeks with my parents. And my mom was telling me what she thought was going on with me. And I said, "You're incorrect. Your perception is based on 40 years ago. Let me share where I am right now with this." And this was me being very emotional. I had finally gotten enough of the trauma out of my physical body to be feeling things very deeply. And I we were in a Scorpio time as far as the sun, and if you understand astrology's lens, it's my ascendant. So,
Okay.
meaning it's what I did naturally. It's how other people see me. And I love to go deep emotionally. That's the emotion set is where most of my work in life has been done inside me
Hmm.
and with others, because I came in with a very young 3 degrees Aries moon. So I just really decided to learn it with 5 planets in Pisces on top of it. So like I am like a walking polarity test in the different degrees that we can be. And like we are so much more than anything we could ever perceive. And that for me has given me a lot of freedom. No matter what my numerology, my astrology, my Enneagram, my human design, my this, my that, my other thing, all the tests, all the things, anyone else's opinion. Who you are is so much more than your human can perceive, because it is going using a mental and emotional operating system, which is sympathetic and picks up on other mental energies and other emotional energies. And this is why meditation and getting into our hearts is focused on by so many, because our root, our heart, and our crown, if you're looking at different energy centers, if you're not looking at them as a full rainbow or dropped out, because we can look at them a lot of different ways. For most people, the bridge is the root, the heart, and the crown are running on their own. So they're not in the swirl of the thoughts and feelings. Um, I remember when The Secret came out in 2006, and it's like someone's like, "Jade, what came first, a thought or a feeling?" And I go, "Depends upon the way you're wired." Like the thinkers will tell you thought, that vibration comes before the feeling vibration. And the feelers will be like, the feeling vibration creates the thought. And I'm like, well, what if it's both? What if it's both? And we're up to this all the time, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, life's good.
Yeah. Oh, life is good. I just saw title of a video from Greg Braden about integrating our thoughts and our emotions together, and that's the key to. I didn't watch the video, but the t- the description of it was that's the key to our well, awareness, awakening, whatever you want to call it, integration.
Yeah. In 2007, I was given a really simple practice in meditation. I would love to share, Sharon, if I
Of
could.
course, please do. Yes.
And it was because I was speaking to a group of women, and I'm like, what do they need to hear today? And I asked my high self to go talk to theirs. And what they came back was how to get into our heart, which is that integration of the mental and emotional planes. Super simple. Putting your left hand flat on your lap, right hand out in front of your crown, and eyes open or closed, whichever is more comfortable, just letting them naturally come into connection with each other. And when they meet, whenever that is, just placing them over your heart. Taking a couple breaths and noticing what you feel. Super simple, yet effective, even with those of us who probably got up this morning, meditated, did exercise, maybe some yoga, and still, because we're thinking, feeling all day long. I had a client back right after that, and she just broke out in tears when she did this. And I said, "What?" And she goes, "I haven't felt this since I was 6. 40 years since she had felt in her heart."
Wow. Yeah. I
And it's
believe it.
available to all of us. It's free. It's right here. Right here. So it's a great one. You can teach little kids if they're anxious to do that. Like just, patty cake it in the middle, put it on your heart, Like there's so many wonderful ways that we can play with our own energy field. Since 1999, it's part of what I do with people every day is give them practical ways to work with their own energy because we're who we have all the time. They get to watch your wonderful interviews and information that everyone brings, but they have themselves with them all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, that I could just feel when it came into my heart center, this huge expansion, bringing that energy in, bringing that together. It was a huge expansion for me. So I can see how someone would get emotional bringing that energy into their heart center if they had never felt that before.
Yeah, yeah. And like when we're children, we do things naturally. Like we have our hand on our heart more often than we do as adults, right? When
Right.
you talk when we're little, we talk with our hand here. And another really cool one is figuring out which way you bring energy into your body.
Mm.
And depending on your polarity,
Hmm.
it can go either direction. The vast majority of people in my generation spin to the right, and spinning right will bring energy into their bodies, and spinning left will expand their energy field. Now, my youngest daughter, who turns 29 in December, she's the opposite polarity. And I had an herbalist one time try to change her polarity, and I said, "Leave her alone.
Yeah.
Leave her alone.
Yeah.
She came in this way. It is her because she's opposite." And then who else did I find was opposite during that? Just last week when I was with all my kids, somebody else was the opposite of what most were.
Okay.
So like no matter what it is, letting yourself be you in how you are lined up.
Yes.
Like my youngest walks in both worlds without effort. I walk in both worlds, yet there is effort involved in my dual walking in both worlds. So, I really encourage people to allow themselves to be lined up the way they are,
Yeah.
that
That
there's
can
no right or wrong way, there's their way.
totally. I love that. And that confirms what I got about the chakras because I hear some practitioners say that they need to be spinning in clockwise, and that just didn't feel right to me. So whenever I do guided meditations for chakras or do my own, I just help people to understand, just do whatever feels right, because, and I got the same thing when they're spinning one way, they're bringing energy in, and the other expanding, sending energy out, because that's what we do. That's how we clear them, is moving in different directions, and we bring
Yeah.
energy in when we need to, and send it out when we don't. It's kind of like breathing. It's like breathing,
Yeah.
right?
And
And don't
like
force it.
and I've been initiated in different Reikis, right? And one group will go one direction, the other group will go the other direction. And when you stop making things right or wrong and they just are what they are, and that consciousness is what it is, it gives more freedom for
Yeah.
people to be who they are and for them to participate the way they do. And that's what I feel a lot of us are here doing right now, is finding the freedom in that it's okay to be different than somebody else.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Brings us into that unified field. If we're all the same color yarn, we don't look like such a pretty blanket weave as when we're all multiple colors of yarn.
Oh, definitely. I had a vision of the tapestry of, I felt it was my life, or in my soul group's life, whatever it is, and the how beautiful it was, all the colored strands, and some were lit up, and more than others, it was just the most beautiful thing that I could remember ever seeing in my mind's eye. And I just broke down in tears, because it was just so amazing to see the tapestry of who we are in our lifetimes, our life streams, and how we connect with each other. And then as it expands out to our communities and around the planet, and out further, into the galactic world and the universe, it's just the most beautiful thing ever. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely gorgeous. There's an artist named Autumn Sky who anyone who's ever seen the weave of humanity with a bunch of hands around it, it's more than likely her version of it.
Sounds familiar.
It's rainbow colored and there's all different colored hands
Oh,
around it. It's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And she also does the art for Elena Fairchild's like Sacred Rebel deck and a couple other of her decks,
I have a lot of her decks. I love her decks.
yeah, those ones have come back into my world when I lost all my things in 2020 in a fire.
Oh, good.
It's interesting what comes back into your world and how your world changes. There are crystal singing bowls here. I used to have a crystal ascension table, yet that isn't back in my world. There were only 7 in the world. Now there are 6. So, and it's okay.
It is okay.
We're all on a journey, and when we can be okay that it's a journey that's ever changing, life's a little bit more gentle to experience, at least in my experience, and that's all I can ever share from.
Oh, nice. And I think it's really important for us to know that we're not alone, that we're never alone. So many people feel alone right now on their own.
Yeah. And what's interesting is the difference between belonging, being in the longing in that emotion, or included. So if we understand that we are included in the whole of what is, that no one is ever alone, that it can feel that way to the emotional body, absolutely. And you can physically be alone, but lonely is something different. And I have a lot of single friends who are like, I'm never lonely. And I'm alone all the time. And I'm like, that's so cool. I get super excited when I'm alone. Because even if I leave home, I'm usually with other people.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
like,
I look forward to the day when I have some alone time. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and a lot of us do life a little differently. Like I'm a 2911 birth path. And so I'm always with someone co-creating something naturally. And it wasn't anything I ever thought about. It was just what was innate to me. And go ahead.
No, I was just no, finish your thought.
Oh, it gave me awarenesses. Like numerology is one thing that brings awarenesses. We're always much more than that, but it allowed for, the awareness of why in the heck am I always in partnership, and I'm so much better co-creating if there's another to play with. So
Yeah.
sometimes I play with my spiritual self
Yeah. Right.
if I'm in a project
I get
alone,
that.
physically. Yeah.
But we're never alone. We're
No,
never alone.
no,
Never, ever.
no.
So explain the 2911 life path you just
Oh,
shared,
so my
if you don't
my
mind.
birth path. I'm numerology that I study is an ancient Aboriginal out of Australia,
Mm,
and came through my Hawaiian lineage. Yet, birth path or natural talent is what we call it. Is everyone pretty much in numerology uses the same, no matter what form of numerology they're doing,
yeah.
and that's to add up the date of your birth. So I was born
Right.
2/23, 1966. Always use the first two numbers of it when you're doing numerology. Give all the energy it's due. I just saw something the other day and I thought, Jade, you're judging that, because it said 11/11/22 and about next year, and I was like, it's 2022. And okay, Jade, you have a different belief than that person. So like leaving the space for that belief and stepping out
Right.
of the judgment.
Right.
Can you tell judgment was I'm ENTJ? I do judge her as a natural gift. It's a discernment that we work on moving out of
Well, it's nice to
as
have a judger in certain areas of our life, right?
it
Don't
is.
walk in
It
front
isn't
of
a
that
bad
car.
thing. I don't make judger bad. I just
No,
try
I
to
know.
move it into more of a harmonic instead of like the front and center expression. So our natural
Right.
talent tells us what we naturally do, like innately. Like I thought everyone was an 11. I thought everyone saw the world the way I did. Um, and that isn't true. The truth
Right?
is, it isn't
It
true.
isn't true.
And even the same people with the same birth path will see the world differently. My youngest daughter, I mentioned earlier, has the same birth path as me, and she was about 23 or 24. And she said to me, Mom, I'm not like you, even though I'm a 29/11. And I'm like, oh my, did you truly believe that meant you had to act and be like me? Well, isn't that what you said? I probably said we have the same birth path. The expression of that is individual. So people can do two in multiple ways, and they can do one in multiple ways, and 11 in multiple ways, and nine in multiple ways. And like stepping out of the meaning making has been a long, slow, arduous journey for me personally. There's a lot of reasons, which again would be more meaning. So I keep tapping into infinite possibilities. And for me, that's a visual of iridescent sparkles. And sometimes they're bubbles, and I just like float around and let's notice
Yeah.
that there's lots of possible perspectives.
Right. Yeah.
And I speak so clearly that a lot of people think I think it's only my way. And I'll let you all know there are so many ways. And even if we speak with real conviction, I've moved it from a belief to a view,
Hmm.
and it's really lightened my own experience
Hmm.
in how I traverse the world. And I can have more grace with me, because the toughest person that I was tough on is me. And that's what most of us spiritual aware beings are. We're really hard on ourselves.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't, I can definitely relate to that of, I lost that thought. I can definitely relate to, well, being tough on yourself for one thing, for sure. But, and I lost that thought that I had a second ago. I'm sure it was really profound too, but it's gone. Maybe it'll come back around. Continue, please.
It's in
Yeah,
one of those bubbles of possibility.
there you go. There you go. That's where it's at. Oh, I know. Beliefs. You were talking about beliefs, and I've learned also, it's difficult but especially when you get into as old as I am anyway, and in this work and things like that, in this world, when something comes along that shatters that belief, and that's kind of what's going on in the world now, and it doesn't have to do with the spiritual world, but that shatters that belief, it's hard to let go of that. And so I'm learning to be more flexible with that type of thing as well, because I believe, and I'm sure hopefully you would see it this way as well, I'm sure you do, is that we are bringing in information at a certain frequency or vibration where we can handle it, or where we can process it and understand it. And as we, because my guides have always told me, don't get too attached to anything. That's what keeps us here, kind of thing, you know? So don't get attached to belief systems, or even in spiritual work, don't get too attached. So I like your view that it's a view.
Well,
Yeah.
and people were always talking about lenses 4 or 5 years ago, and I was like, lens is still a pair of glasses I've got on. What if I turn, and I do this with clients sometimes, I'll be like, okay, turn left, what do you see? And they'll tell me, and I'm like, turn right, what do you see? And it's a whole different view. And I'm like, that's how simple it really is to change perspective. There I've got a door, there I've got trees and a
Yes,
window.
totally.
So it gives us more freedom. I have a 5 external personality, which is the date of your birth added together. So
Okay.
I was born on the 23rd, so it's a 5. And so I'm always looking for freedom. I'm looking for freedom in kind of everything outside of me, which then brings freedom inside of me, which is a feeling for me of expansion. And um, we have we have such an opportunity right now. You mentioned, you know, as things come up for review of truth or non-truth, and um, what does this look like? And I got in my dad's face. My dad's a Capricorn, and he'll be 83 at the end of December, and I love him, and he's a great teacher for me in a lot of ways. But I said, Dad, what if this isn't all the alien ships reveal themselves and they get out and show us? Because I've seen these guys. I've been in a ship. I lost my adrenal glands at almost 11 because of an experience. What if that isn't what's happening? What if it's we have to actually notice what we've created that's up for decreation, that we've got stuck behind our own created veils? What if the revealing and the unveiling is inside our own behaviors? And he's like, and some of that is financially based, governmentally based, but we're having to deal with our own behaviors in our own lives on a moment by moment basis. And as we slow down, it's louder.
Yeah.
Like you notice things more. Are you noticing anything like that, Sharon?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've been getting the information that we are dealing with our creations. And I mean, not to say that humanity has not been manipulated in some way as well, but I'm not going to put a but on it. But uh, you may have gone through a dark night of the soul. A lot of people probably have. I went through a dark night of the soul 20 years ago, and I feel that humanity is going through a dark night of the soul now. And this is what's happening. So we're all everything that's we didn't want to look at, or we didn't want to deal with, because we were just, going on through our day trying to make a living, getting the house, the car, this, the that, trying to keep up the Joneses, all this kind of thing that we're program. So we watch our TV, get on our cell phone, program. So now it's all of the stuff that we wanted, that we ignored, is coming to the surface for us to deal with. And that's really important.
Well, and when we talk about ascension, we're having to deal with so much in our bodies, in the
Yeah.
physical body.
Yeah.
I'm hearing people talking about their teeth, their eyes, their knees, their hips, you know, their organs, like everything in the physical. I started swimming. Yesterday was my first break in 2 weeks swimming. I wasn't a swimmer. I might have 5 planets in Pisces. I'm more Neptune. Like, let me trident this and make the water move. But I'm like, you know what? This is a really good way to move this body
Mm-hmm.
and to get some freedom in it. I'm using a chi machine, and they've been around for 40 years. But when I ask my guides, how do I get physical energy back in my body? I can pull spiritual energy in all day long. But you know what? It doesn't do the dishes very well. It just doesn't, you don't want to wash the floor. Well, a chi machine, the original one, I went and ordered it. It's not a direct sales, anyone. You find the distributor or you find a used one. By the way, the used ones work great. The mechanism is moving. It'll keep going. It's a good thing.
Chi
And
machine. I never heard of that.
chi machine.
Okay.
I would say, as a super empathic being, I didn't know I was an empath word wise until I was almost 40.
Mm-hmm.
At 11, I knew that other people's energy affected me because I went from my town of 300 up by Fargo, North Dakota on the Minnesota side, down to Minneapolis, St. Paul. And this was an awakening moment when I wanted everyone on the bus, which was like 25 kids, to throw their coats on me. And my teacher comes back to the back seat on the bus and she goes, Jade, what are you doing? And I said, I can't take all these feelings. And it's really loud down here. So in her mind, it was the traffic. I could hear everyone's thoughts. So people go through these spontaneous awakenings at this point. And I've worked with a few people who have done it. One gentleman knocked the entire grid out 5 blocks around his house in Pennsylvania.
Wow, that's crazy.
He was using EMDR glasses and was working with breath. And this is before he started working with me.
Uh-huh.
He literally is spontaneous. He thought we were crazy. He's like, I thought you guys were all Looney Tunes. And I said, and you worked in network engineering, right? And he goes, yeah. And I go, you're a cosmic network engineer. You just chose the physical network engineering in this life.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of you are really, really good at what you do, and it takes you 30 seconds to do something that your boss believes should take 3 hours, look at the cosmic level of that work, because you're naturally doing it.
Right.
And these are the kind of things that, most people don't talk about,
Mm-hmm.
but these things happen to us. My favorite phrase that has walked me through my very unusual life is, it's okay and I'm okay. Even when things, and it's okay not to be okay,
Right.
but in the big picture, I'm okay. In the moment, I might not be okay at all.
Yeah.
But if I tell myself, I know I'm not okay right now, but I'll be okay. And okay doesn't always mean great. It means I'm moving.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I'm
Movement,
still
very
important.
important.
On it. I'm still
Right.
moving. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. Movement is extremely important. No matter what, especially if you get stuck, right? Extremely
Yep.
important.
Yep.
So tell us about your KLEAR Channel Technique.
Sure. I mentioned I'd been clairaudient my whole life. I thought everyone was. And in 2016, I had a friend call me from Mount Shasta, and he said, I know how to get rid of our egos. And I'm like, yes, how are we going to? And just everyone be aware, I know there is a good aspect to the ego, and that is helpful. He's talking about the programming that runs the I know everything and more that the ego can do. Okay. So he told me what to do. He's so cute. He's originally from Germany. And he said to me, take 4 days and think about it. So 20 minutes later, I did what he told me. I love to process like so fast, and it's always been natural that way. Some people process slower. There's neither one is right or wrong. The way you process is the way you process. So I did what he said, and my guidance said I would lay down now. And 4.5 hours later, I woke up. So no one gets their ego cleared in one fell swoop. And I went to my sweetheart and I said, I know I just altered my personality massively. And since we're in a conscious relationship, if you don't like this version, just let me know. Because I knew innately how much I had changed my personality.
Wow.
And that began a journey of working with a few friends that I was close to on perfecting a way to create a guided, channeled energy experience. And when I asked, what is this called? I heard clear, KLEAR. And I said, what does that mean? And I heard, well, we're coming in as a larger group, but we want to be called clear. So the K, the L, the E, the A, and the R have at least one group of energy behind them. That's a drop down from source. It seems like a meditation. People will be like, it's a guided meditation. And I'm like, it's multidimensional, seventh dimension and beyond transcendence energy work. And I'm asking your seventh dimensional self to work with you and beyond, of course, but that transcendence energy. I love how Matthias De Stefano, who is a young man from Argentina that many of us will know, how he simplified the universe. And we know this, like we talk about the Godhead, we talk about the Akash, but he's like, here's what I remember. And he just broke it down in the 9 so simply. But our seventh dimensional transcendence is an aspect of each of us. It's an expansion of our consciousness. And so when we do a clear, that is asked to go to work consciously for you. And what it does is it clears your way to the clarity around something. So like on my website, there's a clear for stored anxiety. Now, as naturally sensitive spiritual beings, it's really easy to put thoughts of the past reoccurring in the future, or thoughts that other people have projected for the future into the future. So that's there as a way to help people notice what is beyond or behind where they're creating the anxiety. And I've done thousands of clears. I have hundreds and hundreds that are recorded. It's a way to clear the path to your own awarenesses. It's interesting because I'm always like, gentle, 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 because the thoughts, the feelings, the ahas, the messages that are there for you to be revealed for your own evolution come to your awareness. And I ask it to work in the 4th dimension of time in about 3 weeks, depending upon how big the clear is, 3 months. I think one thing was 3 years one time with someone. I'd never heard that before, but it was a massive amount of energy that they were unfolding.
Wow.
And it's important for the psyche and the inner child aspects of ourselves to know it's going to be safe.
Right.
And so clear is about a 25 to 30 minute experience of transcendence.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that onto the planet, and helping so many people and helping continue to help so many people. Oh my gosh, what a gift. What a gift you are. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a joy. Yeah, I mean, every day is more and more joy. And so it's funny because we clear the things that we don't want the patterns of anymore, but we also can clear the way to the yummy stuff. So I actually started calling those activations, and people are like, that clear for joy? And I'm like, yeah, okay, we can call it a clear for joy because we're clearing the path of more and more effervescent joy in our own experiences. And joy isn't something everyone is here and wants to experience. Like literally what they choose is their choice. We have that full spectrum of light, some of it that we can see and some of it that we don't see. So giving the spaciousness for everything has been a way for me to really loosen my old duality programming that
Right.
was really strong. I came from northern Minnesota, right, wrong, good, bad, my way or the highway. And that literally, I would say it. I'm like, don't let the door hit you in the bum on the way out. Like, I really fell all the way into that, the space of third dimensional consciousness, which has a right and wrong in it. And I'm super grateful to have walked the path of expanding into more of that integrated self, which is for me and my La'au Kahea, my Hawaiian tradition, it was really about integrating the masculine and feminine energies so that we can see through our high self eyes and really have a more inclusive view in the world. And that allows us to play in that more fifth dimensional consciousness as a collective. And you mentioned how we are in that space right now of what we could call the dark night of the revealing of what's happening. 2007, I remember going into resurrection and rapture energy as far as my embodied ascension path with a small group of like 28 of us. And, you know, we did have things that fell apart in everyone's life in different ways. So, like, noticing that, you know, it's kind of a phase. I was brought up Catholic, so it was like the Stations of the Cross. I was like, we're literally walking through the prediction of what I was like, yeah, you know, when Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela were together in 2011, which by the way blew my mind because I remembered Mandela leaving when I was just leaving high school.
Same here. Yeah. I remember
I'm
him
like,
dying in prison. Yeah.
yep, I remember it like it was yesterday. And people are like, no. And I'm like,
well, yeah,
you know, like these timelines are fluid, we'll go with. It's kind of like when things disappear. Like where's sometimes my rocks, like rocks disappear. I'm like, I put that down here and then it'll be gone. And then I call it back and it shows up in a different room. And I'm like, I didn't carry you there. Like you're moving through space and time. And the rock's like, I'm not part of that dimension. And I'm like, okay. Rocks have talked to me my whole life. So some might think I'm crazy. That's okay.
Oh gosh, no, we're gonna have to talk about that. We're gonna have to do this again.
We are going to have to do
We're
it
gonna have
again.
to do this again. Definitely, we have so much to talk about. But I love your description of your technique. That sounds really amazing. I want to cry for some reason as you were describing it, how it helps people. I just felt this emotion well up in me of gratitude and love.
Well, absolute love is what, for me, it really is, like that is the transcender, right?
Right.
So when we bring ourselves into that vibration and have more access to who and what we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a joy.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Jade, I'm going to let you go. Okay. Thank you so much for being here and chatting with me. Do you have any final words of wisdom for the audience?
Well, I want to thank you, Sharon, and your audience for sticking with us. And I'm going to leave you with a closure from Hawaii, which is Aloha Keakua, the creator is love. Malama Pono, we stand together in our alignment of righteousness. And a hui ho, which is until we're together again.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Well,
Thank
thank you,
you.
everyone. Yes, thank you. Mwah. And thank you everyone for being here and watching another video. If you are new, please subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed. How could you not enjoy this, right? And hit the notification button so you can be notified, all that, all that stuff. So you'll get notifications whenever we get some more, I get some more videos up here. And thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much, Jade.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mahalo.